Peace. How you guys doing? It's your boy Free Play, and we're back with another video. So I've been a bit busy, and I haven't been posting a lot because if you guys check out the page, I've been working out of the studio, and I just been moving around a lot. You know, sometimes I like to be away from the scene, and by the scene I mean like the music industry or even just hanging out in general. I could be a little bit of an introvert or like a loner or a recluse, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes when I get in artist mode or just in certain moods throughout the year, I like to take some time away from being around a lot of the action that goes on, especially in my city in New York. There's always something going on. There's always something that you could participate. And I encourage you guys, you know, as aspiring, you know, professionals or producers, or even if you're already a professional, to get out there and network, right? Because that's one of the best ways to come across opportunities and to collaborate and things like that. But it's also important sometimes to like take time for yourself and really like, you know, recollect all of the inspiration, all of the experiences that you've been going through, and just like, you know, remove yourself at times. It helps me. So towards the end of 2023, I kind of took a break from being in the studio, from being around a lot of events and things like that, because personally it could get a little bit overwhelming for me. I also like to be by myself. I enjoy my time by myself, and I enjoy like meditation and things like that. Those are some of the things that help me. So again, like those are just like little gems, you know, that I like to give because it's the way that I operate. And some people have been asking me, like people that subscribe to the channel, people that have been showing love, to share like some of my routines and things like that. And that's one of the ways that I kind of like recharge, right? So like I'll remove myself from things, from activities, from being around certain environments, just so I could freshen up and come back with new inspiration, with new approaches, and with new sounds. And a little bit of what I wanted to talk about in this intro today was about who do you listen to, right? Because when I come back into the scene or into the world of social media and just seeing how people are like operating and how they're moving and approaching the new year and their goals, sometimes I see things that, you know, it's a little bit like concerning, but at the same time it's not my business, right? Like I already addressed the fact that people like move on into buying new gear like really fast before mastering the things that they already have. And there's other people that like get turned off by a certain approach that a producer may have or an individual may have, and instead of showing love, they want to, you know, spread negativity or say negative things like in the comments. And I know sometimes I bring those things up, but I've already come to a point in my life and in my career where it's very difficult for me to be affected by negativity, because I know it comes more from a place of the other individual than from something that I'm doing. And for a long time, especially when I started taking my music serious and deciding to become a professional, that this is what I was going to do full time, I stopped listening to a lot of people. And that doesn't come again from a place of ego or being egotistical or any of the negative connotations that you know, not listening to others has. But what I learned, and this is something that I picked up from different mentors throughout my journey, is that you should only really listen to people that have accomplished the things that you want to accomplish, right? So if you want to become like, let's say, a millionaire, and you're listening to just advice on how to become a millionaire, like, is that person that's giving you the advice already a millionaire? You know, and if that's your goal, then fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with, you know, having financial ambitions or things of that nature. But for a long time, I had to realize that even when people have my best interest in mind, they may be coming from a place of projecting their own fears, and they may not have achieved the things that are on my bucket list or on my list of achievements that I wanted to reach. So once I realized this, I stopped kind of like binge watching channels that were just entertainment, or listening to people that, although they have a nice way of being charismatic and delivering things, they haven't yet achieved the things that I wanted to accomplish on my musical journey in life and in my career. And I know that that doesn't come from a place of ego, thinking that I'm the only person that's right or the expert in any field. It comes more from a place of, you know, like, experience is gonna kind of dictate what results you're gonna get. And what I mean by that, like, who you're listening to, if they've accomplished some of the things that you want to accomplish, then maybe you should listen to them, you know, especially in the regard of what that accomplishment is. So for example, like, I'm an industry engineer and an industry producer who has worked with certain artists and has accomplished, you know, certain accolades. So already, kind of like, if you follow certain paths of what I've done, or at least a certain method, you may get similar results. And that even goes with like pieces of gear, right? Like, the ASR 10 has already delivered certain hit records sonically, or maybe just the way that it samples. There's countless producers, and we could go on naming all of them, right, that have used the ASR 10. I believe there's a Wikipedia page dedicated to the ASR 10 that lists all the users, you know, and amongst some of them very notable and famous people. I'm not gonna keep naming them. Same thing goes with the MPC 2000 XL. And that's not to say that, like, let's say a new piece of gear came out, that you can't be the first person to deliver a hit record on that. Because again, it's not the tool, it's the user, right? Like, you are the music, right? I am the music. The way that I perceive music is gonna translate no matter what tools I use. And that's how I look at these things, you know? So, you know, I've been posting what I've been living, and you guys could check out the live. You know, I go to commercial studios, I work with artists there, I cook up there, I collaborate with producers there. And if that's something that you guys want to aspire to do one day, you know, maybe you can follow some of the approach and some of the advice I'm giving. And that's all I have to say about that. You know, the comments are funny. People talking about, you know, working on computers. It's like an office job. Well, you know, like I said, it's one of the best office jobs I've ever had, because I've actually worked in a, you know, cubicle for a corporation before, and that was inspiring to me. So if, you know, working in a studio inspires you, you know, maybe you could look at some of the approaches I take, and that could help you one day reach that goal. You know, that was one of my main goals when I started this. I was in my bedroom, and I didn't even know what a studio looked like. And I would look at pictures, and I would, like, you know, create a vision board and try to imagine myself one day working in these major studios that artists go to and make hit records, you know? And then I got to be part of the process of making hit records. And I got some of the awards that I aspired to get when I was still coming up, you know, over 10 years ago. And one of the other advice that I want to give to the people that are here to be edified and educated on what it takes to be a successful professional in the music industry is to master a DAW. And I'm not gonna start with the DAW wars, you know, what's better, FL Studio or Ableton or Pro Tools or Studio One or Reason, Cubase. These are all professional tools. And I could say that because I've met and seen people get professional results from all of these DAWs that I just mentioned. So what I recommend is, you know, try them all, try as many as you want. And the moment you connect with one, go ahead. You know, Logic as well. I've seen people make hits in Logic. I tried Logic for a while myself. But the ones that I've picked and have worked for me is Pro Tools, especially for vocal tracking and mixing, Ableton for mixing as well as production. And I've tracked vocals in Ableton, my own projects. And recently, in the last, I would say 3 years, I've started to use FL Studio a lot, which a lot of people, you know, used to bash as it being a toy, as it not being a serious DAW. But again, some of the biggest hits in the last decade have been created in FL Studio. So it's a very formidable and, you know, valid DAW. There's no question about it. Now, your ability to master these tools is what's going to determine the success that you have with them. And I could safely say that I have mastered the DAWs to serve my needs. Now, for example, when I tracked vocals for Little TJ, I did so in Pro Tools. And by no means do I know all the shortcuts in Pro Tools, or am I like a power user, but I know the shortcuts that I need to be efficient. I know how to gain stage, and also I always track using analog preamps and compressors and certain microphones that meet the needs of that artist's, voice. So I have been trained by, my mentors in the recording industry to know like what mic or tool to use depending on how that artist's voice sounds, whether it's more in the mid-range, whether it's an airy vocal, whether it's a deep vocal. I'm not always reaching for the same microphone, and a studio that has an expansive list of in a mic locker or microphone list is very helpful for a person like me that likes to kind of cater to an artist's needs specifically. I don't use the same tools every time, and this is a skill that you pick up through experience, right? Because the Neumann U87 or the Sony C800, which are the top picks for vocal microphones these days, they don't just fit any artist, and they're not the right choice for every vocal. So that's what I think is the irreplaceable factor when it comes to engineering, and something that AI or you stealing somebody's template will never be able to do. Like, some people sometimes get surprised when I mention certain things regarding, like, let's say my rate, and I'm not going to discuss that here, but I don't charge based on like how many hours it's going to take me to do something. These days I charge more on like my ability to be able to deliver a professional result, and knowing what tools are going to deliver that result, right? So there's like stories of like a plumber like charging thousands of dollars to just turn one screw, and he said he could have done that in 15 minutes. But it's not the fact that it took him 15 minutes. It's the fact that he stopped a leak by knowing like what screw to turn, and that's the way that I see myself as a professional engineer, is like I know what tools to reach for in order to deliver professional results. A lot of times when I work with labels these days, they bring me young artists that you guys have probably never heard of, and maybe you will hear from or about a couple of years down the line, because they're trying to get an industry level sound out of them. And that's been my expertise, is vocal tracking and creating a unique vocal sound that a lot of these artists have gone on to use almost for the rest of their career. I could probably say that my sonic like choices have marked some of what modern hip hop has become in the recent days. And again, I'm being grateful and I'm humble about it, but these are things that have happened already, right? So there's no use in bashing people for the choices of using either a DAW, using a sampler, or using these things in combination. I've been blessed to have been gifted a 2000 XL and bought a ASR 10 when they weren't asking astronomical prices for them, and I use them as tools to kind of enhance what I already do. And I don't use them to like create a specific genre of music. I don't stick to like boom bap or vinyl. I mentioned this in other videos, and I'm not here to kind of like do whatever is gonna make me gain as much subscribers as possible. I'm here to educate others that wanna kind of like follow in the footsteps or exceed them, right? Like, you wanna be in the industry, you wanna have professional results, and that's why a lot of the gear choices I've made, and again, this is something I've mentioned before, it's always very thought out. I buy professional level equipment, or equipment that has gotten results for others in a professional capacity, or people that I look up to. So it's not good to undermine others. It's not good to be in the frequency of hate. Obviously we deal with frequency in music, but on a more spiritual level, right? Love is the highest frequency. So I'm here to spread love. I'm here to educate for free on YouTube with the things that I'm thinking about at the moment. And it's not a tutorial channel either. So, you know, when certain things maybe are not clearly explained or the camera angles are not perfect, you know, I'm trying my best to just give you guys a view into my world. And I'm doing that with an iPhone currently. You know, I don't have expensive camera equipment or lighting, and I'm just giving you guys what I can with what I have. And I'm a big proponent of that, of just using what you have and get started. You know, make some music, make mistakes, master your gear, master your DAW, because that's what's gonna lead you to create at your fullest capacity. With that being said, you know, the purpose of this video is not just to give you guys a story time or to express some of my, not frustrations, but just insight as to what I see, is also to cook up. I've been cooking up a lot, as you guys have noticed in my channel, in FL, but I'm gonna combine, you know, the best of both worlds to give some of the viewership what they like, which is to see the ASR 10 in action. And one of the ways that I've been experimenting now that I'm back near it is using it in combination with FL Studio as kind of like a sound module and a sampler, right? Which is what it is. And its power is it's in the sampling engine and its sonic signature. So the power of FL for me, it's like its channel rack and its pattern window, right? And its ability to like deliver fast results. Because on Saturday when I was in the studio and I went live, I made a melody, and shortly after, like a client that works with a lot of notable industry executives and is himself like working on an album, walked in while I was setting up the room for him to do a session, saw me in FL or saw my laptop open and asked, hey, like, did you just cook up a beat? And I played it back for him. He liked it, the same melody that I was working on the last live that I posted. And you know, it made me realize something else that I always talk about, and it's like, it doesn't matter what you make your beats on if they connect with someone. Music is an emotion, it's a feeling, it's not a technique, it's not something, you know, only producers care about whether you used ASR or MPC or FL, or that's all producer talk. You know, if you talk to your shorty or to your friends or to other fans of music, they don't know what these albums were made on. They just know that they incite in them or cause in them a certain emotion that just can't be explained, and that's, you know, the frequencies that we deal with. So just master getting your ideas out and use whatever it is. If you have to use a sampler, use a sampler. If you have to just use a DAW for efficiency, and that's kind of what makes more sense in 2024, then use that, because you also need to find a way to get these things and these beats or instrumentals or songs out of these machines into a playable format so that you could keep playing beats. I mean, that night I must have played like 10 or 15 beats, and I had to just keep going, keep playing beats. You can't run out of beats as a producer. You gotta have, and I have thousands of beats. I like to play like the more recent stuff that I've done every time I'm playing back beats, but you just have to have them on deck. And if you're just making loops in these samplers and you're not transferring them into a DAW or into MP3 format, then, you know, you're gonna catch a L if you're trying to get a placement or if you're trying to play back beats for an artist. And I realized that a lot of the internet has become like a soundboard for people that want to agree with each other. Like, nah, I only do things like this because of this. And then you're just holding yourself back, homie. You know what I mean? And that's not a very open-minded approach to like what's actually going on. I mean, even if you do want to make like, let's say, boom bap, you know, have you listened to like the more recent boom bap albums that have come out and the producers behind these albums, like what do they use, you know? Even if they are using hardware, I promise you that, you know, 99% of this stuff ends up in a DAW, in the Pro Tools to get mixed, or even in another type of DAW to get mastered, and everything has to touch the digital domain now. It's the reality, you know? So stop being so prideful to the point of, you know, ignorance, because it's only gonna hold you back, right? I know computers could be intimidating from some people that are like, even from my generation and a little bit before, believe it or not. And it's something that we just have to embrace and learn. And it's easier than you may think, because the way that I've mastered like almost 3 DAWs already, and I could say like I could move around in any DAW once I find like the functions that I need, you know, like sequencing, how to record, how to loop, how to change the BPM, how to time stretch, how to you know, go to the arrange window and put things into bars and create breaks, create automation clips. Like, they all do these things. It's just a matter of finding these tools. And once I have the ones that I need and understand where to reach for them, I feel confident in any DAW, just the same way I feel comfortable in any studio, because I understand, like, let's say a patch bay. Some of you guys might not know what a patch bay is, but I know how to use a patch bay, and I feel comfortable in any professional recording studio using a patch bay. Like, I know what I need to do. And that's what I feel makes me a professional, is like the fact that I wouldn't get nervous if I was taken out of my ecosystem and asked to deliver a professional service or result to any client in any setting, right? Like, if somebody told me I can't bring my MPC, oh man, like, no, I'll just say, hey, even if I don't bring my own laptop, I'll just figure it out. I'll say, do you guys have a DAW? Like, do you guys use Pro Tools, Logic, FL, Ableton? I bet you they have one of those, and that's all I need. I just need to have you know, like any of those, and I'm good to go. If I go to a studio, a lot of times, obviously for my sound, I like to have certain equipment that delivers the level of result that I'm known for. So I don't like to compromise that, right? And I have been able to do it without certain pieces of analog gear, because I just know what to listen for, right? I'm not just leaning on these tools as things that are going to give me excuses as to why I don't want to embrace the future and the current state of things, like using DAWs, using even auto-tune. Not that I use it for every artist, but I've come to learn why people use it and what's the best way to use it. So I'm gonna be cooking up, like I said, in FL with the ASR. And the way that I'm gonna be using the ASR is connected via MIDI and USB to my laptop. Everything is coming out of the ASR into my desktop, which has an Apogee Duet tracking the whole thing. And that means that only MIDI information is being sent from FL into the ASR 10. And I'm sampling, you know, either one shots or drum sounds into the ASR, but I'm using the channel rack and the piano roll, which is very powerful in FL Studio, to, you know, kind of sequence the ASR. So I'm using the sequencer of FL to trigger the ASR, and this is a similar way in which I use the 2000 XL, but instead of the MPC, I'm using FL to trigger the ASR. And this is something that I haven't done before. Like, this is kind of like, I started doing this today actually, and I thought I'd make a video about it, because I've started to think, okay, well, I'm using a FL a lot, like how can I incorporate the power of the ASR into my sound and in turn make it unique. So I hope this is helpful for you guys. I hope that the intro also served to give you guys some insight on how to approach things in the industry and on your journey, and encourage you to keep spreading love, you know, because it's so easy to be a troll. It's so easy to like write hurtful things just to get a reaction from people, but that doesn't do anything but cause your own energy to become kind of clouded and negative. So you kind of hurt yourself more by doing those things, whether you realize it or not. So much love. Thank you to everybody that's been rocking with me. Thank you to everybody that's been supporting the channel. And thank you to everybody that's just been listening to these intros and to these videos. All right, so we're going to get to the Cookup, and it's your boy Free Play. Peace. Okay, so we're here in front of the ASR 10, and I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm also going to screen record this so that you guys could see what's happening inside of FL Studio. And like I mentioned in the intro, I'm using a different type of approach here. And I'm hearing a little distortion. Let me just lower. There we go. Okay. So I'm also going to screen record my session inside of FL so that you guys could mix and match, or I could mix and match during the editing process. You could see some of my movements on the ASR, and you'll also see what I got going on inside of FL Studio. Like I mentioned before, some of my previous videos have been me cooking up inside of FL, and it seems like a lot of the people that came and subscribed to the channel in its early stages, which is still in its early stages now, came here for some sampler content. And when I post my Cookup videos inside of FL, you know, the viewership tends to be a little bit lower. But I want to be honest and transparent with you guys about how I work and how I approach my creative process. And this is the reality, like I said, of it. I use all my tools for their strength, and I'm always thinking of new ways to mix up my setup, keep me inspired, and keep me fresh and doing things that I haven't done before. Like this setup, I usually run MIDI or my samplers off of Ableton. But lately I've been very excited about using FL, and I've just been thinking of new ways to incorporate all these pieces for their strength always, right? So to me, the main strength of the ASR 10 is its sampler, its sound, and its effects. And just the way that I know how to move around it, it's very second nature to me by now from using it throughout all these years. And what I'm going to be doing today is I have my ASR 10 connected to my laptop via a MIDI interface that I've mentioned before, which is the MIO, the iConnectivity MIO interface. And basically, what I've been doing is triggering MIDI to the ASR. So I'm sending MIDI information from FL Studio to the ASR. And the way that I'm getting the sonic flavor of the ASR 10 is by sampling one-shots from either VSTs or drum sounds that I have on my hard drive or inside of FL in my library to the ASR. So I'm sampling into the ASR, and that's how you get the sound of the ASR. Like, you know, you could monitor the ASR and record things straight through it. This is a way to use the ASR for its kind of like, you could use the ASR as an effects module that way, but you're not going to get the sampling characteristics of it unless you sample into it. So that's something to keep in mind. And I'm going to start creating a beat the way that I normally would, even if I didn't have the ASR 10, except that all my sounds are going to be going through the ASR 10, or at least most of it. Because once I start creating, I just kind of just go with the flow. And that's how you guys should approach it too. But I think I have a good understanding of how I could use it as a sound module. And there's nothing wrong with this approach. There's nothing wrong with how you make music, period, as long as the music sounds good. I'm going to keep mentioning that over and over again. So basically, people would use like a Korg Triton before, and the Korg Triton, or even the Roland Phantom, for example, they have their own sounds that they take from other hardware sample, modules like Junos or things like that. One thing that I do recommend you guys watching too is a recent Mike Dean like interview, or what do you call it? Kind of like content that Reverb created, where he's using all his hardware, and he uses Ableton, and Mike Dean is Grammy Award winner and multi-platinum producer that works with Kanye, with Travis. And whether you like him or not, he's an accomplished producer and mixer that I look up to, and he uses a DAW. So again, just to keep driving my point home, using a hybrid setup is the way that I believe you could get the most out of production. So I'm gonna start with drums, and I'm gonna be using a lot of MIDI. Just quickly, I'm gonna show you guys here in my MIDI settings how I have the ASR connected, and I use port 4, just a random number that I picked, because you're gonna see later when I pick certain instruments, I could always go back to referencing point 4, and I have the ASR on multi mode. I've covered this in another video, MIDI in mode multi. So basically every track 1 through 8 is going to be channel 1 through 8. So whatever I have on track 1 is going to be channel 1, etc., all the way to 8. And if you want to copy these settings, you could go ahead. I've also been offering consultation, Zoom consultation, where I take my time personally with you to go over how to set this up personally with your setup. And again, this is a paid service. I do YouTube things obviously for free, and I try to show you everything for free, but there's always certain clients that need a little bit of extra help, and I'm able to allot and schedule time around my schedule with everything else I got going on to help you guys out. So feel free to reach out in the email in my bio if you want to look into doing that, or if that's something that you guys need. It's not for everybody, and again, you know, my time is limited, so I try to do what I can to help the people that want to invest in themselves and take their career seriously and need help setting this up. So if this helps you, you know, here it is. You can see it. If you need further explanation, again, that's going to take more time, and it's going to, you know, require you to book something if you want. That's not necessary. But anyway, this is how I have my MIDI settings that allow me to control both FL and the ASR this way. So even the start and the play button could control FL if you have your ASR and your FL set up the right way via MIDI. So we're gonna start with hi-hat pattern and like a drum pattern. And the type of beat that I'm gonna be making today is gonna be kind of like more modern and like more for today's type of artists. So just a heads up, you know, this is not going to be a boom bap. If you guys want me to make more boom bap style stuff, you know, put that in the comments, and future videos, I'll go through that. And I really believe that as a producer, you should be able to make all types of beats. So if you're more of a boom bap style producer, maybe you want to try something like this just to, you know, brushing up your chops, because as a producer, you should be able to deliver anything that a client or a potential, you know, client or artist wants to create based on the mood that they're in that day in the session. So the BPM that we have here is like the standard that FL opens at, which is 140. And I'm going to start with first sampling in a hi-hat into the ASR. So let me go through my drums. I like these recently. These Cody. He's a producer that has gotten multiple placements with artists, you know, ranging from, I think, Yachty to, you know, I don't know. You could look up his discography, but he has great sounding samples, and I encourage you to support his channel and his packs, etc. So let's see. Let's get a hi-hat. I like this one. So you can see here that my sample, my right channel is lighting up. I'm gonna just sample that by clicking in the browser window, and then I'm gonna go into sample into track 1, input drive right. I'm sampling everything at 44. So that's already inside my ASR. I'm going to leave the LFO, which I usually change. I am going to normalize it. For the short samples, for the longer samples, I'm going to try to avoid that because that takes up more time. This just brings the volume to a more consistent level. And as you guys can see now, that hi-hat, it's across all 61 keys. And I'm gonna be using some MIDI hi-hat patterns that I already have. I could look up some that they come with different packs, but I also was creating a drum pack myself, and I have one here that I made. So let me use my own hi-hat MIDI. And I'm gonna use this 2-step one here and drag that in. Okay, so it automatically put like a flex piano. Let me delete that. The main way that I've been using it is with this MIDI out instrument, and this is where the port comes into play. So channel 1, like I said, is going to be track 1, and that's where our hi-hat is. And I'm going to just drag in that pattern into this MIDI out. Let me cancel this. Gotta drag it right into it. It's gonna be this. Okay. And if I hit play, you don't hear anything back, right? So that's why the port is important. No pun intended, or rhyme scheme intended there. So double click here. You want your port, remember it's on 4. That's where the MIO is transmitting excuse me, information to the ASR. So if everything works right, when I hit play, it should play my hi-hat. There we go. So that sound is being triggered by FL to the ASR. And if you notice here, it changed my my BPM. And that's because probably when I made this pattern, that was the BPM information of that pattern. And this is one of the power of like working with this setup instead of just sampling loops where I'm like stuck to a BPM, is that I could change that here whenever I want, back down to 140 or any BPM that I want. And it seems to be locked in because that information is just like, it's in the pattern. So let me see, let me delete this here. So I cut some of that part out where I was trying to fix the BPM. Some MIDI patterns have BPM information printed into them, and that could change the BPM of your session. I'm still trying to figure out how to avoid that happening. But anyways, just to keep things going smoothly, I have a hi-hat one shot sampled into track 1, and I have a MIDI pattern from my drum kit that I created before. And I'm basically playing that pattern, as you can see here in the screen recording. I'm playing that pattern back, and it's doing all the pitch and things from the ASRs, from the ASR. So you're getting the sound of the ASR pitching this, where if you did it from FL, you would get the sound of how FL pitches things. And in this kind of setup, you're getting the benefit of the sound of the ASR. So we got a hi-hat going. I'm going to go ahead and let me actually find the clap from my pack as well here. Let me just use the first one. I'm going to sample that into 2. I'm going to normalize it. I'm going to make another MIDI out instrument. This is going to be on channel 2 because that's where the clap is. And I'm going to go to port 4. And I'm going to click them in. And this is how I use like the channel rack in FL. So I'm going to put them on the 3s. Let me go into the piano roll. Let me delete this. I'm gonna put it on bar. I'm gonna highlight from these 4 bars, and I'm gonna hit Command B, copy over the clap pattern. All right, cool. So I have that going, and now I'm gonna open up Analog Lab, and I'm gonna start looking for like a one shot that I could sample into the ASR, and then also trigger like a pad or a chord progression into the ASR. So let me look up like a key. And the cool thing about having the ASR connected is that it's working kind of like a MIDI controller too. So right now I also have it triggering. So if you don't want to hear that clap every time, because I'm on track 2, I have to create, and I'm going to do that on channel 8. I have to create an instrument, like a blank instrument with no sound in it. So I'm going to do Command instrument, and I'm going to create a new instrument, and I'm going to pick instrument 8. I'm going to create that, and now I could trigger Analog Lab with the ASR's keyboard. So if you just want to use your ASR as a MIDI keyboard with FL, you could, and it has a beautiful key bed that everybody loves, and I like it too, as just a MIDI keyboard. And if I wanted to, as you can see, I could sample my chords into the ASR this way as well, because I got the headphone outputs of my laptop connected to the record in of the ASR. And I've discussed this previously, like how I have everything connected. Basically, my computer is being a sound module, and where I'm running my DAW, and I have a secondary computer right behind me, an iMac, that's capturing all the sound from this. And my microphone is even connected to the input of the ASR as well. That's how I'm capturing this vocal audio. But what I want is just a one shot, something short. That's gonna be good for me for the sound that I want to do next. So I'm gonna just sample that into the ASR on track 3. So I'm gonna hit sample right, and sample instrument number 3. I'm gonna just capture that whole C note. The root key is C. It's triggering it twice. So what I could do is could lower the volume here all the way down. Automatically it sounds different than the Analog Lab one, and it's spread across the keyboard. Let me see here, edit instrument. I could also turn on pressure mode to key polyphonic aftertouch on these. I'm going to turn that off because it just makes the ASR transfer a lot of MIDI data that could cause it to slow down, like down the road as you build up your beat. I'm going to normalize that sound. Another thing I'm going to do to make that sound a little different is I'm going to lower the sample rate. I'm going to do it to the lowest amount, see what kind of sound we get. So here we're using sampling, and then I'm going to do MIDI, some MIDI chords after I change the sound of that bell. So now I have a unique one shot. using the sampling power of the ASR to create something unique with the Analog Lab VST. And now I'm going to create another MIDI out instrument. I'm going to put that on channel 3, which is where my new one shot is at, port 4. And I'm going to look for some MIDI chords. And again, like I said, I have, as a producer, I download like as much resources as I can. You guys have seen me cook up from scratch. I could make my own chord progression. That would just make this video longer. But I'm going to take some from any MIDI pack. So I'm going to use the search browser function down here of FL. And I'm going to just type in MIDI. And you'll see a bunch of packs come up here. Shout out to Cymatics. They're always giving away free stuff that help producers. And I'm going to see what's here, like something dark maybe. I love D sharp minor. So let me just randomly pick this here and see what that makes, what that sounds like all together. Excuse me. You could even control the volume of it here in the channel rack. Let me keep browsing through these. Keep going through these packs. Just keep browsing through different patterns. I like the one in A minor. Okay, so the sample rate to me, to my ears, seems to have changed a bit of the sonic, like the tuning of the sample. And that could happen, obviously, when you change the sample rate, it could change the tuning. So I'm gonna go back to Analog Lab. I'm gonna take that same sound and I'm gonna resample into track 3. I'm gonna hit the shortcut, pressing the sample instrument, and hit cancel. So that instrument was deleted. I'm gonna sample that again and see how that same pattern sounds with the sample not being converted into a lower sample rate. Let's see. I think it's just a characteristic of the sound, but let me also just like normalize it. Okay. I'm gonna also normalize I did normalize this. I'm gonna just boost it. Boost this too. The bell is not boosted, but I think if I boost my drums, it's gonna give a better balance. I like to mix as I go. So now I can also start filtering like this bell sound. Another thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put the drums on bus 3 so that I could put effects on just the bell sound. And I'm gonna go through the effects. This is gonna change the reverb too on my microphone, but I could put that also on bus 3. Let me. Check. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna put the effects on this bell. You see how I'm controlling FL by hitting play here? I like that too, that I could do that. It's like a older type of, Arturia or any MIDI keyboard where you could use the transport. So let's use the beautiful FX section of the ASR 10 to change that bell. I like the 44 kilohertz delays. I could go into the edit effects, make that like stronger with the mix level here. Lower the feedback a little bit. Now I want to get like a pad. Pads are a little bit weirder because you kind of have to like, I'm gonna keep using Analog Lab. You have to like either make them loop inside the ASR, or you have to record them for a long time so that they don't like cut out. But because of the way that I'm producing here, I don't think I'm gonna run out of time or sample time in the ASR. So I'm gonna try to like find one of these pads. Let me see. Let me go back to my instrument 8, which is blank. Allows me to use this as a MIDI keyboard. I like that. So I'm going to sample that into track 4. And I'm going to just try to get a long sample of that C note so that I don't have to go through the trouble of making it loop and creating like, something that I could sustain and it loops on its own. I'm going to just get a long sample of it. That should be long enough. I'm not going to normalize it because that's going to take up too much time. I'm going to start playing. I'm going to copy the chords, the chord progression. I'm going to create another MIDI out instrument, and that's going to be channel 4, port 4. And I'm going to copy, and I could edit these MIDI notes too, but I'm going to copy and paste here. I'm going to lower the Analog Lab all the way down so it doesn't double trigger and see how that sounds. I'm also gonna put my layer, my hi-hat on trigger, because I noticed that it's like kind of sounding, it needs to cut itself off. These I'm gonna leave how they are. Maybe I'll put them in, I'll mess with different layer modes in a bit, but I want to see how this sounds with the pad. Okay, I'm gonna start deleting some stuff here that I don't like how it sounds. That's also going through the delay, so I'm gonna change the output bus of the pad. I'm gonna also experiment with lowering the octave of the chord progression of the pad. I'm gonna hit Command A and I'm gonna hit Command down. Start deleting some of these melodic notes from the MIDI chord progression. Since pads are usually like more sustained, I'm gonna like, you know, these are things that I'm hearing as I go. So it's not just click and drag, you know, as much a lot of people like to make it seem like you gotta make these creative choices as a producer to do certain things. There we go. Let me just delete these notes here. Okay, let me see how that sounds. And even on the original like MIDI that I use for the bell, I'm gonna delete just certain things that are making it sound too busy. I want it to sound more simple. So now I'm making that MIDI pattern that I use from a pack my own. Gonna go into the filter section and mess with the filter on the bell a little more. And that's the filter of the ASR. Another thing I want is to use like a bass, like you know, a Reese style of bass, synth bass. I'm gonna find one here. I love Analog Lab. I got it with my Arturia. When I purchased my Arturia, I got a free license for it. So let me see what bass I have here. Let me put my volume up. Go to my instrument 8. Okay, so I'm also sampling with the effect on, so that's why I'm getting that delay. That might have happened also with my pad, but I don't mind how it sounds that way. But I'm gonna go to my effect selection. I'm gonna turn off my delay. That's the sound that I want for my bass. So I'm gonna sample that in to track 5. Let me sample input dry right. Okay, and I sampled it for a long time so I don't have to loop it, but a way to save sample memory is to just sample it and then find a clean way to loop it so that it kind of plays endlessly. But I think I sampled the long enough part of it where I could play the notes in and be able to. So I have this bass sound here. Let me play back the. And if you wanted to here too, you could obviously like rename all of these for purposes of like time. I'm not gonna rename all of them, but you could, right? So it doesn't take that long actually. That way you know like what is triggering, and you could obviously do the same thing in the ASR. I am gonna name all of them. I'm a little OCD like that. And then here, if you wanted to put this like out of the way, as long as it's clicked, you could hit option and go up like that. And now you have your whole like beat organized. You can name all of them here too, obviously. So this is like, you know, I could go into edit instrument, name, and then here I could go, you know, hi-hat. And then that's easy. You know, and then each one of them. I guess we are gonna do them. That's the thing about me, like my ADHD like makes me like start stuff and then I gotta like do the whole thing. But anyways, was that the, oh no, that's the clap. Anyways, everything will be organized now. I like to be organized. Bell. And then pad. And then this is the bass. You could put synth bass if you want, but it's just bass. Okay, so we have that, and we need to create a MIDI out instrument here inside of FL on channel 5 for the bass. Okay, now I'm gonna like use this piano roll function, which shows you like ghost notes, to create the bass line for it, and it allows you to preview the sound as you go through it. So here you can see like the bass note of the chords that I'm playing. And I'm just gonna go like this. Let me actually put this on half beat. Command Alt Shift D, and then boom, click. I already hear that I kind of want this an octave up. Let me see how that sounds. I want that louder. I'm gonna rename it bass. Make sure my bass ain't going through that delay too. Lower the bell. So I got like 2 more spots here, and this is kind of like allowing me to be efficient, and kind of already build an idea, right, that has the sonic characteristics of the ASR. So I'm gonna do a kick and a snare on these next 2 channels, and then the rest I'm gonna kind of like start building it in the arrange window of FL, so that we could get through like the hook, the pre-hook, and maybe like a verse section. But I kind of want the snare and a kick drum to have the ASR sound on it. So I'm gonna pick a snare. I'm gonna go back to my pack here. And I named it like Denver Drum Kick because these are a lot of the sounds that I was using when I was making some music. Shout out to my boy Devani out in Denver, Colorado. I was working on a tape with him that should be coming out soon. TTYL is the name of the project, but these are a lot of the sounds that we used. So I made a whole drum pack with like 808s, claps, and a bunch of sounds. I think I was gonna go something like this. Let me sample that into track 6. Okay, let me make a MIDI out instrument for channel 6, port 4. Okay, it's doing that double trigger thing, but if I go here, I could just trigger it by itself, and I'm gonna normalize it. And obviously, I know I like to boost the kicks. Put it on bus 3 so it doesn't have the effect, even though I took off the effects, but I'm gonna put it back. The 44K delay. Boost on. Get that nice ASR 10 sound. And let's hit play. Let me go back to adding effects. This, I already put it on bus 3. Put this on bus 3. I did already, right? Okay. And again, that's the power of naming things. So let me just name this too. And I don't be caring about the long videos anymore, but my phone be running out of memory sometimes. So talk about things running out of memory. Yeah, my phone. I need a camera dedicated for this stuff because my phone be running out and it stops recording. But hopefully with the screen recording, if my phone runs out, we'll just go back to screen recordings. I was going to put effects on bus 1, which is should be on the bank maybe. Yeah, there we go. So I saved my settings. That's the cool thing about the ASR. I saved my mix settings and stuff like that. It automatically, when you pick an effects, it goes into the bank, which is like, I think in the ROM memory, if you read the manual, so that you don't, like, even if you change it out, it'll be stored there. So let's play it back with that. I'm gonna name this kick. And I'm gonna click it in. I'm gonna click in a kick pattern. start from here while I create the rest of the pattern. Let me get a snare. The last instrument. Okay, so I'm gonna turn off my effects. I'm gonna sample that one. Okay. Gonna create a, so you guys should get the pattern by now. And a lot of this stuff, like I said, I'm making a beat, but I'm also doing it so you guys could see like how to approach it yourselves too. And hopefully this helps you guys out in thinking about how to use your tools. I mean, you could replace the ASR for like a SP404 or a KO2 if that's what you have, and be using it in this same way and with these same concepts if you already own FL or own a sampler, how to use things outside of the DAW to make your sound unique. Let me rename this snare. Like I mentioned before, this is like my first time experimenting with this kind of setup, so I had some hangups along the way, excuse me, and that's how I learned too. By teaching, you learn how to use the things that you're trying to do better, and how to navigate around certain issues that come up. Let me rename this. Snare. Oh, my snare is going through. What back? Bus. They're all dry right now, but let me normalize my snare. Let me boost it. Start this from the one. So yeah, a lot of times too, you might be hearing like latency. That could just be your audio settings. So I'm gonna like play around with this a bit. And see if that helps. Yeah, definitely. So obviously, like, if you guys, I could go into this in a tech talk, but obviously, like, When you have higher buffer rates, that's what they're called. I go back here, you guys could see it in the screen recording. The buffer length is obviously going to add latency if you have higher numbers. So I was noticing that as it's sending MIDI information, you're going to have, round trip latency and things like that. So the lower this number, it's better for recording audio. And a lot of times, even when you're playing MIDI in, you're going to experience latency if that number is too high. But when do you need that number to be high? Like when you're mixing, and also when you're using a lot of VSTs, you're going to need that to be higher. You're going to start getting clicks and pops and things like that. But since this is like purely MIDI that's running out of FL, I'm only running one instance of Analog Lab. So this is a way to save processing power from your computer, but you're obviously like, running it up on the ASR. Not a whole bunch of sample memory, but we're using all tracks. And in order to like reduce the latency that we were hearing, like the beat started to sound like a little offbeat to me, to my ears, you want to like lower this buffer length. Now I think that things sound a little bit tighter. So let's listen back. And I can now start arranging things inside of FL, and I could start adding stuff. I could start adding stuff in the arrangement because I ran out of like sampling space. Not really here. Like I could start sampling other wave samples inside the layers and things like that, but I don't want to make this overly complicated and like overload my ASR. So I'm going to start using like the power of this setup to another extent. I'm going to split by channel here, and I'm going to use the arrangement to bring things in at different times. And I could also now start adding, other instruments. I have my instrument 8 here as a MIDI keyboard. I could start adding other sounds and other instruments. And now that they're all labeled, I could choose when I want things to come in. And this now gets me out of that loop mode and into like creating an arrangement. So I want these hi-hats and claps to come in here with the bass after 8 bars. And I want the kick and this snare to come in here on the hook. I'm going to duplicate this. Let me hear this, put it in song mode. Save. Now I kind of want to do like an 808 pattern, but again, like all these sounds that are MIDI that you see here in FL, they're all coming out of the ASR. But now I could create a pattern 8, and I'm gonna actually rename that to 808, and I could do my 808s inside of inside of FL. Let me save that. And I'm going to just use a cheat code. I'm going to look at what notes is going from D to A. It's in A minor. I believe that was the MIDI pattern that we chose. So let me pick an 808 I have here. This like a spins. Now I'm hearing it right now because it's going through my obviously it's going through my ASR, so I'm hearing it with that delay. And for purpose of the video, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just turn that effects off right now, so you're not gonna hear the bell with the 808. And again, like if I had a multiple like input interface, I could make sure that like that output is not going through the ASR, etc. But right now I'm limited to like a duet that has 2 inputs, and I'm not able to kind of sidestep that. So that's why you're gonna see me turn this off for now. and hear that without. But what I could do now, like what I would do if I was doing this beat not for YouTube, I would just start printing that bell sound with the delay, turn it off on the ASR, and etc. Keep going. And when I print this beat out for myself through Ableton, I'm gonna track it with the delay. But let me just do a quick 808 pattern here so that we could be like home free. Usually for my delay, I like to cut itself. Check the tuning, open it in pitch corrector. It's on C, and then just delete that. So yeah, I'm gonna create a pattern. I have it on cut itself. Yep, and then I'm gonna go into the piano roll, create an 808 pattern. Let me make sure I'm in pattern, 808 pattern. Piano roll. A little bit up. I like to do them like on half step or 1/2 beat. Let me try that. Shift D, make it the note length of whatever your time signature is. Quick shortcuts. Let me see something. I'm gonna do a simple 808 pattern. Hey, I got this scale highlighted to like some weird thing. Let me just turn it off. Put it on A minor actually. Okay, so that's the wrong note. Need it on D. I'm gonna copy that pattern. Put this on bar. Okay, let's see how that sounds. For the top. I wanna hear how it drops actually right here. I'm gonna raise the velocity of the 808s all the way up. Me hear it from the top, and then I'm gonna pretty much like, sometimes I like the kick to come in on the second half. I'm gonna copy this over. I'm gonna get rid of the bells in the verse. And then my arrangement would be like this. I'm gonna duplicate this over. This is usually like how rappers like their beats arranged. And I'm gonna do that twice. And I'm going to copy this intro to the end here. And I'm gonna also leave off with the bass at the end twice. So that would be the beat. And then also, again, like you could add more layers. And a Cookup session, as you guys seen, sometimes it takes me like a whole hour just to make my own original melody. I'm just trying to show you guys how I incorporate MIDI with the ASR. And I'm going to leave it at that for this video. There's no mixing going on. You're just hearing things straight through the ASR and being triggered by FL. So that's it. Thank you guys for checking it out. I'm going to play the beat back, and you know, is it the greatest beat in the world? I don't know. Somebody will mess with it. Rappers like very like simple beats. So this is passable, and yeah, I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna print it. I'm gonna mix it. Maybe add more elements as I keep going. So thank you for checking me out. It's your boy Free Play, and I'm gonna ride out to the beat. Peace.